And here we are. Welcome everyone to Sunday Morning Grace. My name is Reverend Carolyn McGee, and I am here with Reverend Don Simpson. And it is such a pleasure to be with everyone. And this is our first Sunday Morning Grace of 2022. So fun to be here with you guys and open up the energy of possibilities. And we are going to be chatting about clearing spiritual clutter, which as someone who has moved recently is right up my alley. And I know Don's getting ready to move to sell a place. So it'll be an interesting conversation. To start with, as always, if it is safe for you, please close your eyes, open up your body, put both of your feet on the ground. And let's take in our 3 deep breaths and gather our energy together, gather our community. So in through our nose, out through our mouth. And 2. And 3. Now I'm being guided to do something a little unexpected this morning. I invite you to put your hands on your heart and bring your consciousness, bring your awareness to your heart. Just continue to breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth if possible. But bring your awareness to your heart. Bring your consciousness to your heart. So it's as if you're actually breathing through your heart. Feel the heartbeat as it beats from your literal heart. So you may feel a gentle pulsing underneath your hands. You may also feel the heartbeat from your hands as they rest against your chest. Just feel that energy, and really, it's almost as if your brain has settled down into your chest. All of your awareness is coming from this part of your body. Your mind is empty. And now allow your consciousness, your awareness, to drop from your heart into your solar plexus. And just notice what you notice. All of your energy, all of your focus is on your solar plexus, that area between your diaphragm and your belly button. As you breathe in and out, notice what you notice. Is there something blocking the energy? Is it hard for you to notice this part of your body? Or is it easy? Continue to breathe, and now bring your awareness and bring your consciousness to your sacral, that area between your belly button and your hips. Continue to breathe. Notice how all of your focus is there, and it's as if that part of your body has eyes, has ears. Pay attention to anything that's blocked there. It has a size, a shape, a texture. Just breathe through it, allowing it to be released, and then bring your awareness into your root. that area from your hips down. And just breathe that knowingness in your root, releasing anything that's stuck, bringing it from your hips, down your thighs, through your knees, calves and shins, ankles, through your feet, all the way to your toes. And when you get to your toes, just give them a little wiggle. Almost as if they're 10 little eyes soaking in information. Now bring your energy all the way back through your legs, up your body, back into your heart. And then move up to your throat. And just notice, bring all of that awareness, all of the sensations. It's as if you have an eye or eyes in your throat, ear in your throat, and you can see, you can hear, you are aware. And just notice if there's anything in there that's stuck. Be curious. Now move that awareness up to your third eye, that area at your forehead, where you already are connected to divine insight, but allow it to be your focus for consciousness. Is there something that you don't want to see? Now bring your awareness up to the top of your head, to that crown area, and just notice the sensations on the top of your skull. So this is more about bringing awareness to your body and where it connects to your crown chakra versus actually going up and connecting to the divine. And one more deep breath in and out. And bringing your awareness back into your heart. Being grateful for our little journey, for clearing it out, any energy that's in our way. One more deep breath in and out. And bring your awareness back to this time in this space. So that energy clearing, I think I never know what I am going to do when I get on here. I'm so blessed with my connection that my angels and guides always take me exactly where we need to go. And I recently learned that exercise in another class that I was taking, or leading actually, and the other facilitator led us through that. And I felt so open and expansive after doing it. I felt so a higher level of ability to connect and awareness in my body. And the beauty of that is releasing the clutter in our physical bodies. And that's what can stop us from really connecting in deep with our angels and our guides, is that energy that we've got stuck. Maybe it's an old resentment that we've got in our body, or maybe we're so used to going up that we forget that we have a body that we need to connect to. Or maybe we're so used to seeing that pile of papers. I got one next to my computer that needs to be filed, that I don't even notice how that slows me down and blocks my ability to channel. And so, Dawn, what do you have to add to that?
Yeah, I first I have to comment on the meditation that you brought us through. That was so amazing. And I invite you all to do that again, whether you listen to it again and allow Carolyn to walk you through it, or you do it on your own. But that was really so, I guess we could say eye-opening, because that's truly what we did, right? We opened our eyes and our ears inside of our bodies and got to see and hear whatever we needed to see and hear. And, we have, of course, we have our topic of, releasing spiritual clutter, but you can go in with any intention. You can do this and go in with, what do I need to see? Am I missing anything, in my life right now that can help me move forward in my spiritual life, my spiritual practice? You can choose your intention to do this and use your eyes and your ears, your inner hearing and seeing, and keep a journal, keep a journal on what you see and hear in each of your chakras. Now, you may have some chakras that will speak really loud to you, or you'll see things really clearly, and other things you might not see or hear anything, and that's okay. There's different parts of our body that are going to share different things, and there may not be anything in some of the areas in our body, and that's okay. Maybe next time there will be, right? So again, I invite you and I myself to do this exercise on a regular basis, whenever you need it. So thank you so much for inviting us to start this way, Carolyn. That was beautiful.
You are welcome. And I do want to give a shout out to Kai Rose, who introduced me to that process. And it was just, everything's divine timing, right? Yesterday I co-led this class, and today I get an opportunity to do what I learned. And when we open ourselves up, when we're not stuck, and for me, I think spiritual clutter is those patterns that we get ourselves in, those thought patterns and those routines. Now, I have routines that I probably will never let go of. I get up in the morning, I leave the dog in my bedroom, I go out and I get my coffee, I feed the cats. I've got this routine, but it works. But I'm also aware as I'm doing it, is there, has there been an accident in the house? Is there something going on outside that I need to be aware of? I'm not so tunnel visioned on getting my coffee, although I will admit it's a focus. But that I'm not aware of what's going on around me. I do have 2 cats, they're nocturnal, and sometimes stuff gets knocked down, and I need to be aware of that and take care of it and clear it. Now, we need to do that in our spiritual lives also. If we get so locked into a routine, an expectation, we can miss opportunities. I like to switch where I meditate because, excuse me, I get a different perspective from a different place in the house. And it's because of what's around me, there's the energetics of a home. Are you in the helpful people section? Are you in the wealth section? So choosing deliberately to kind of break a routine and move things around help me get a different perspective on it. My dog does this. He goes, like, he'll look at me like, I don't quite get what you're talking about there, lady. And that's what we're doing with shifting the energy around us. And that's what spiritual clutter is. It just is blocking energy.
Yeah. And, listen, we'll be the first to tell you this is not easy to do. We're creatures of comfort. We
Mhm.
love to be comfort. We love to be in our comfort zone. But the place that we literally and actually grow is outside of our comfort zone. We don't really grow if we stay in the same place, doing the same things in the same old way. I mean, we're going to get the same things coming to us, right? We're not going to get the different things or the things that we're praying for or wishing for or asking the universe for. Now, they will certainly do their part, but we need to do ours. So we need to step out and away from the clutter and whatever that clutter looks like for you. Now, it could be literal clutter. It could be a pile of papers next to your computer. It could be some old beliefs, or some old habits that you're just not feeling like you can break them and you can, not do them anymore. Carolyn, what you were just sharing was a perfect example. I like to do my morning meditation and my morning writing in my little chair. So, because it's cozy, it's warm, I like looking outside, I like the view that I have, and I love that. And so I could, of course, step away from that beautiful little area, maybe go sit on the couch. It's a different energy spot, right? It's kind of next to the chair. And I could come here downstairs and sit on the couch here. So I can certainly do that and have the same view, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing that brings to mind too is you're creating a beautiful energy while you're meditating. You're creating that beautiful energy in your home, in that space. So think about, if you only do it in the same chair, in the same spot, in the same room, you just have that holy spot in your room. But if you start doing it all over your house and you're creating a home full of beautiful energy that you've created, during your meditations or during your quiet time or during your connecting time, yeah. So I felt I needed to expand on that because there was so much good in that. So thank you for bringing that to our awareness.
You are welcome. And, I think if you're just starting out to meditate, then, having your spot, like you mentioned, is beautiful and helpful because it does build up the energy and we are creatures of habit being human. So knowing your body, kind of like if you have a bedtime routine, you're getting ready to go to sleep. This way, you're going to go meditate, and that's beautiful. But once you've established that, then bringing that energy to other places in your home or bringing it to your yard if it's warm outside. I don't know anywhere in the eastern United States where it's warm outside, or Canada. I know we've got Barb online with us here, but when you can, it makes things more expansive. And like you said, it makes things more holy. And what I have noticed is I give greater care to where I meditate, to where I connect, to where my spiritual practice is. And it helps me be more aware of what's around me. It's like I don't want to be distracted by, that pile of papers. I happen to be in my office, which is a very beautiful spiritual place for me. So I do have a little filing that I need to do as I get ready for my taxes here. But it's a little distracting. So, clearing that clutter, the things that pull us away from our center, pull us away from our connection, pull us away from our purpose. And it could be, that little pile of that needs to be filed. It could be something that you're holding on to out of obligation. A gift that somebody gave you that maybe you haven't hung up a picture because you don't know where to put it, but you don't really like it. That's pulling you away from being centered. So, take an opportunity to look around and see what are you holding on to from habit or from obligation, and release it because somebody else will love it.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that exercise alone, if you get off the phone, get off this call here today and just do that for a few minutes, I think that you'll see your own pile getting created of things, go into a pile that you haven't gone to for a year, right? That you've cleaned out one area, but you put it in another area, right? We all
Right.
do that. We take it off the counter and we put it on the desk. So now we have to put it on the desk and we have to put it in the cabinet. You know what I mean? Like it just keeps getting shifted, right? So what is that pile that collected for you a year ago that you still haven't done anything with because it's still in limbo? You're like, nah, maybe someday I'll hang that up, or I'll find a spot for it, or whatever, right? Hit that pile. And I also feel like somebody else needs to hear this too. And I think I'm one of them. There's a lot of us perfectionists out there. And we think we got to get it perfect. We got to meditate sitting this way, acting this way. We can't be walking, talking, whatever. We're not supposed to have any thoughts in our head. Like we have this thing created in our minds that we have to do it the way Dawn and Carolyn said. We have to do it the way that the person on YouTube that I follow said, or the email that I saw, that's how they do it. No, we don't. We do it our own way. And your way is perfect. Your way is perfect for you. Our way is perfect for us. The people that you watched on the internet is perfect for them. They're inviting you to try different things, maybe the way they do it. But it's giving you the opportunity to tweak perhaps what feels right and comfortable for you so that you can move forward in your spiritual practice. And again, I'm using that as kind of meditation, but use it for anything and don't feel that you have to get it perfect. You can do it the same way all the time, or you can do it different every single time, change it up, make it, it keeps you on your toes, right? It keeps you aware of in and what's outside and around you. So yeah, mix it up.
Yeah. There's so much power. And actually Dawn, or not Dawn, Barb said, Marianne pulled a card for me for February. Fearless feels like the step that we need to take with this clearing. And I think, that's relevant to the clearing our space. Also, it's clearing our temple, and where we might be stuck on something, and it's clearing our environment, and it's clearing our thought patterns. That's what meditation is. It's opening up to something different. It's clearing routines, because those, although routines are such a beautiful way to accomplish things, we also can miss opportunities when we're doing everything step by step. I'm an engineer. I can get stuck in step A, B, C, and I miss these beautiful, even more vibrant ways of living or engaging or opportunities. Now, thank God I don't live that way most of the time, but I find that life is more challenging when I'm just plodding through. I'm getting something done, I'm accomplishing, I'm on that goal thing of I've got to get to whatever. So when I can allow spirit, allow the angels to kind of clear that clutter of A, B, C, D that I've been, marching to, all of a sudden there's this beautiful path that's enjoyable, where I get to have fun as I accomplish whatever I need to get done. But it's easier because I'm not distracted by that old pattern and that old way of doing things. And that's what clutter is, I think. It's old energy. Whether it's that pile of papers that we keep talking about, or it's that old way of looking at things, or that old way of having a relationship. Anytime we can release that, we just open ourselves up to a higher vibration, a higher way to connect, an easier way to live. And isn't that what we all want? You know, ease and grace and joy.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing you can think of is when you're doing something, a pattern, say, of meditating or journaling or whatever it is you're doing, think of it as ceremony, because ceremony is doing something and preparing yourself for whatever you're doing. So if you say, we'll use meditating because we're talking about meditating. So if you're meditating, maybe for you, you light a candle, you get your journal, you get your blanket, you take your shoes off, you connect. That's ceremony. That's sacred ceremony. So you can also be mindful of how are you creating your sacred ceremony? And if something, doesn't feel right or feels like it might be holding you back or restricting you, that clutter, that spiritual clutter, then, take that opportunity to declutter and keep your ceremony sacred. And whatever that means, again, there's no perfect way. Whatever way you do it is perfect. So, and it's perfect for you at that time. 5 years from now, things may shift and change because you have shifted and changed. So adjust your ceremony and the way that you do things and declutter. Those things are going to change. So just adjust them as you change, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's part of it, is adjusting and, kind of doing what my dog does, that slightly different way of looking at things, whether it's moving where you're meditating, since we are on that roll, or it's just opening up even more. I mean, maybe normally you meditate for 10 minutes, so maybe you expand and do 15, or maybe you try and compress things and see how much connection you can get in 5. But it's the rules. As humans, we're big on rules, and society, of course, has to have rules to keep us safe. But we can take that to the point where it becomes clutter in our, it closes us down. And that's what clutter is for me. It's something that prevents me from being expansive. It gets in my way. And, and it can be the dog toys in the middle of the living room, that sometimes can be entertaining, or it could be clutter. If I'm doing something, if I have someone coming over and they have to be careful about where they're walking, it's clutter. So it's kind of the time and place energy of what are we surrounding ourselves with and why, and looking at it that way. And, so sometimes we're picking up, we're removing things, we're rearranging. And then other times I want to watch him chase his tail and, play with his bone, and I'm actually going to go get it and put it out. So it's that awareness and not having to be always the same. That's the power in living a spiritually connected life, is that we can pivot and we have those possibilities, and we're open to exploring them, and not, being like the horse with the blinders, and we're only going, we're not noticing anything else around us. We're so focused on the end game that we're not really living. We're not being in that joy and in that expansion.
Right. And one thing I wanted to share before we finish today is something that's come up to mind that I was learning this week. There's a new group that I just got into, a spiritual group, and one of the things the lady shared is, she's from the UK, so they drink a lot of tea, right, in the UK, and so she does every morning when she gets up. her ritual, her ceremony is what she calls tea and 10. So she has her tea and she takes 10 minutes to think about what she's going to do in her day, how she wants to live her day, what she wants her day to look like. 10 minutes while she's drinking her tea. And that's how she starts her day every day. So we've taken that on as in this new group, we've taken that on as tea and 10. And we're actually gonna, everybody wants to incorporate that into their lives in some way. But just inviting, like we're doing here, inviting you to, maybe do things a little bit differently, or try something new and maybe incorporate that and make that, part of your sacred ceremony. But I don't know, we just thought that was a really great thing, tea and 10.
I love that.
Yeah. We can, United States, we can call it coffee and 10, right? But
Doesn't have quite the same ring as tea.
no, tea and 10, right? Exactly. Yeah.
But it's looking at things slightly differently.
Yeah.
It's a new group that you're involved in, so you're kind of stretching your spiritual muscle by engaging with different people and trying a different routine, and that's what Sunday Morning Grace is all about too. It's getting a slightly different perspective and expanding our minds, expanding our energy, expanding our spirituality, expanding our connection to our guides, so that we can easily accomplish our life's purpose. And I truly believe that everyone's purpose is around love. It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what you do, what your lesson to learn is. The core of it all is love. How do we love ourselves more? How do we love those around us more? How do we love that thing that we trip over because it's cluttering up our space? And learn from it, right? Instead of just being annoyed by it. Ask it, what do I have to learn from it? I have a box of pictures from my mother when we sold her house that was in my garage. And every time I walked by it, it made me a little bit sad. So now it's in my office. I can actually see it. And now I could look at some of those pictures because it's in my space, right? So it's kind of blocking energy because it's a box, but it also feels like a possibility now. It feels inviting rather than just being kind of out of the way where I have to move it to get to something. It becomes an annoyance, or became an annoyance. Now it's curious. I'm curious about it. I want, and I know there's pictures of my kids in there when they were little. So it becomes more joyful. There's an invitation. So that's that shifting your perspective and allowing it to become whatever it is. If it's going through a box of photos, if it's, rearranging things, it's giving away something, it's actually doing that filing, whatever it is that you need to do. It's like, how can you shift your perspective so that it, instead of becoming an obstacle, which is what clutter is, it becomes an invitation.
Right. So taking it from clutter to clarity, right? I suppose we can put a little play on our words, from clutter to clarity, and which is what the box of pictures, had done for you, right? Giving you a little from clutter to curiosity. You were curious. Clutter to curiosity. There
you go.
Yeah.
And you can do it with anything, right? It's like when I moved a year ago, as I was packing, I held everything. Does this bring me joy? And I mean, I shouldn't say everything, almost everything. I mean, sometimes stuff just got packed and I'm like that box of photos, right?
Yeah.
But it's like the big things, like my china cabinet, it was stuffed with things that I had bought at yard sales or something that I just loved at, a shop, or I wanted from my family. And I had stuff that, were gifts to my kids or gifts from my kids. And some of it I just didn't like. And it was a beautiful act and ceremony, to use your word from earlier, to hold it and bless it and donate it or give it away. I moved a bunch of stuff so that I could give them to my kids at that first Christmas down here. And, the looks on their faces were just priceless. Of, mom's had this forever, or this used to be grandma so-and-so's, and now it's theirs. And then they get to do what they want to with it, right? Like, they someday may hold it and say, I don't care if this was great grandma's. I don't like it. I'm going to allow it to move forward. And that's that opening to possibilities that we have, where we're not obligated, because I think obligation energy is so hard to move through, whether it's that pile of paper or a china cabinet.
Totally. Absolutely. Without a doubt. It's, has its challenges for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So Barb just said coffee and contemplation.
Ooh,
I like that.
good one, Barb. That's good for the United States. Yes.
Awesome.
And Canada.
And Canada. Yes. That's fabulous. I like that. And I always have my coffee.
Yeah.
So love that. Very
yes.
good.
Yeah.
So we are actually getting towards the end of our time here. Is there anything else that you want to make sure people are aware of related to clutter?
Just quickly, because we like to have takeaways and things, from our talks here on Sundays, but just, I guess, focus on what are your ceremonies? What do your ceremonies look like? Everything you do is a ceremony, whether you think of it that way or not, I guess is up to you, but it is, everything that we do is ceremony. And so, look at what are your ceremonies looking like, and how are they serving you, or are they still serving you? And if not, how can you tweak them? How can you change them? How can you make a new one? And, by doing that, that might be your decluttering to open you up for your new spiritual path to appear, right? So
yeah,
that's
your new way of being. And
Mhm.
that's what we are. We're all, we're spiritual beings having a physical existence. And so if we can keep our focus on the spirituality of everything, whether it's cleaning the floor or, whatever, but there's that, that meditative, joyful, connected process versus the obligation. I think, that for me is my biggest takeaway from our conversation, is the pivot to joy and curiosity versus obligation. Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. So would you like to kick off our tenets? I think I need more coffee.
I know. Absolutely. Okay. I open my heart with deep gratitude and intend today to master my spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical energies.
I am dedicated to my spiritual practice. I surrender to my soul's purpose through sacred prayer. I own my guidance. I live in partnership with my angels. I serve with a loving heart. I am compassionate in every moment. I trust it's all good. I allow immediate forgiveness. I honor my truth. I listen to the spiritual messages within my physical body. I express myself creatively. I am one with Mother Earth, and so it is. So it is. Thank you all for adding your energy to this sacred time. And if you've got comments, just put them in the chat and we'll be back to respond to you. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye for now.
Bye for now.